Welcome to OM Report by Andre Alpa, your interview-focused podcast on topics from online marketing to internet startups.
So, we are here to do a special interview. Can you introduce yourself, please, and what your role is?
Yeah, my name is Duane Forrester. I am a senior product manager with Bing, the search engine, and my actual day job is running the webmaster program for Bing. So the forums, the community, the blog, and the tools themselves.
Okay, so how come you are hosting an SEO clinic at the SES?
Because for the past 10 years, I've been an in-house SEO. I started with a small company in Eastern Canada and then moved on to run SEO for MSN in the US and Americas. So I understand small scale and large scale SEO. I've been doing it for a decade. So when we sit down and we want to do a bit of a review, it's a great opportunity for me to help people understand what really makes a difference and to shed a little bit of light from the search engine's perspective on what we're really looking for.
Okay, but do you really have, if you were an in-house SEO, you were kind of re-engineering to fill out how the algorithm works. Did you get insight into that once you've, entered the other side?
I have a very different point of view today, yes.
Okay.
Nothing I can talk about, obviously,
but don't worry about
it.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how did you? That's quite a game changer. Both steps to me sound like quite a game changer. There's a lot of. I'm aware of quite a few SEOs that are really successful, like on small or mid-sized projects. But if you give them a long-tail website with a couple million subpages, they're lost, and they also then find out they don't even have the capacity to do it. So how did you know that you could do even MSN?
Well, it was a scenario where I'd kind of, like most people, started with my own websites and just kind of played around, even in the days before Google, when you just add more keywords and you'd outrank the competitor, and then you'd come back the next day and update that. And then that grew. And I got to a point where I have a background in marketing from Caesar's Palace. I used to work with casinos in Canada that were run by them. So that background in marketing, combined with my own experience online, led me to get into online marketing. And when I started with the company, it was relatively small. We had on the order of tens of thousands of pages, and I think I was employee 11 or 13 or something. When I left, they had 200 employees, hundreds of thousands of pages, so we kind of grew out over time. Okay. And while you're doing that, you encounter scale. Because it's easy to go in and optimize a web page for the name of a pitcher. It was a sports website. But then when you have to do this for every team across all of the leagues, that's quite a bit of work. Then when it comes to statistical data pages, that stuff's constantly changing. And then we added the extra layer of comparing stats between teams. So we were taking these very dynamic pages that could just be built on the fly. So you start really figuring out ways to do things at scale, right? Like you realize you can't handwrite every title tag. What you have to do is work with the editors and educate them to understand that when they write something, it needs to target the right keywords. So when they produce the product, you have a good product on the other end. You have to work on what is the best way to automate a meta description tag, what's the best piece of content on the page to take and put in that location, and so on.
So you mostly taught yourself, or did you have like a mentor that would guide you?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that.
The dark days.
No, it's funny because as I look back, I realized that 10, 12 years ago when this was all starting, I was at the beginning of it. I didn't realize that then. I naturally thought I was late to the party. So started in the forums, asking questions, then answering questions. Was brought on as a moderator at one forum. I actually met a gentleman there who ended up being essentially a mentor to me, and we'd bounce ideas off each other and try new things, and it worked out great. And then he was actually the guy who told me I should write my first book. Oh, okay. And so I wrote that. And
that brought you to MSN?
Well, that was posted on my blog. They found me through that effort and asked me to come on in for an interview, and then my life just totally changed after that.
So, how many employees does Microsoft have? It's like
globally, it's somewhere around 90,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how is like everyday business life different? Is there? Because even with 200 employees, you can probably still know everyone.
Yeah.
From Steam.
Exactly.
But like Microsoft for me is like a huge company.
It is, but you have to remember that within the organization, there's different groups in there, right? So where I worked at MSN, and even where I work now at Bing, it's very straightforward, right? They're small teams. They do very specific things. So if you need to do something, you can still go down and talk to someone. The difference is scale. When you do something at MSN and you say, okay, we need to change a title tag. We're seeing the logo or the brand is at the beginning and we want it at the end. when you make that change at MSN, that happens on the order of tens of millions, not on hundreds or even thousands of pages.
So are you then, are you more cautious because the effects are just multiplied by bigger numbers of pages?
Absolutely.
So would you run tests like with this 10,000 subpages and then deploy it to all millions?
No, typically not, because what we have to focus more on
so your gut feeling is good.
Well, that's part of it, right? Part of it is you work within a team of experts. So MSN actually has a global team of experts, SEOs. And
how many of them?
I think when I was there, we had 7 at one point.
They were like all one level, or is it like was there a head
off? We're all same level. Well, we had one lead for our group, right?
More equal than others.
Yeah, exactly. He was the cat herder.
Okay. And that was you or not?
No, that was actually my German friend Frank Gosch.
Oh, okay.
So great guy, based in London, and I kind of miss him. He's a great fella. But what we would do is we'd be very careful around when we wanted to go do work. We would actually be not thinking of it in terms of here's the SEO item we want. We'd also be thinking in terms of, okay, we're going to ask a developer to go do this work, so we need time invested in a project, and that has a cost to our company. And it's not just that direct cost on our project, but what other projects may be needed to be worked on
so you have
that we're
to
taking that
decide
resource
what's more
from.
Important.
Absolutely. Okay. So before you even get to the stage of executing, you're very involved with all kinds of planning and ROI.
I guess you have to justify, if it's worth it, or if it's just like those SEO guys doing some stuff they think is important. Right?
Exactly. And I mean, don't get me wrong, we are a bunch of SEO guys doing what we think is important, but we don't have our fingers on the trigger. We're not pushing the buttons or pulling the levers.
Sure, but you have to you have to make sure that it's really worth the effort and not just do it for the sake of it.
That's probably the biggest change, because when you're working at a smaller organization, you know everyone and you're seen as the expert on the topic. It's easier for you to go in and say, hey Craig, can you actually do this for me? And Craig trusts me, so Craig does that work. Now when I go in,
there's a process.
This is what I need to do. Okay, well, you need to outline the process, tell me what the return's going to be, justify this thing. Then someone else takes
Compare it to the cost, probably
exactly.
Also.
And someone else takes all of those factors in, not just from my project, but from every project, and determines what will get worked on.
Okay.
And then,
but it's so hard for me to imagine. If I was an MSN, would I do optimization and think, okay, Google's going to send me traffic? Is that something you think of, or is it?
Absolutely.
Really?
It's a website like any other.
Okay.
Right. So
but I would, if I was Google.
Yeah.
And I probably don't like Microsoft. I would.
No.
Maybe.
So
do you think it's they all play fair?
Yeah, largely they do, because here's why. The search engine's job is to bring back the best results for something.
Okay.
So if either of the engines decided that it wanted to remove a competitor from its own index, then that really hurts the relevancy in its index, right? It's not a good user experience, okay? It's just not a good thing to do, but it hurts the user. And at the very core of everything we do is the user experience. So we have to show this.
It's more like a long-time perspective.
Exactly. It would be like if you had a window in your home and you covered one pane with a piece of cardboard. You're not seeing the full view. And no one wants to do that.
So who's usually a competitor for MSN?
Typically larger portals like Yahoo.
Like news sites or that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
General interest, very much.
General interest, entertainment, that kind of thing.
But so MSN is just the content. It's not like where you buy your Windows and so on. This is not MSN.
No, that's a separate area.
All right.
Yeah.
So there was 7 guys only for MSN.
Globally.
Wow.
Yes.
It's quite a few.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
But then again, it's a number of pages.
It is a huge project.
Okay.
Huge project.
Okay. So, and what kind of numbers were you looking at? Because obviously MSN is like a publishing business, so there's no leads, there's no sales, right?
Yeah.
I would assume. For Hotmail, you can probably generate leads or something.
There's ads all over MSN.
Sure.
Right?
But then again, you're kind of targeting for the maximum reach, I guess. This is like a typical publishing house target.
Yeah. We were really optimizing our content, driving traffic into the website. That was our main goal.
So was it only US, or were you also having some insight in the...
Every market globally.
So which markets were you really active in?
My area of coverage was the U.S. and Americas. Okay. So Canada, United States, Brazil, Mexico, Guatemala, all of the Central and South American countries where MSN has a presence.
Let's talk about those. Did you have different content for the different Spanish markets, or did you have additional?
It depended on the market.
Content?
There was always some local component to it,
all right.
And in a lot of cases, because there was common languages or something was a regional issue, it would be